Hello, it's Anna Hill here with the Farming Today podcast. Autumn has arrived, but the Bluetongue virus is still with us. Vets are warning farmers not to get complacent, despite some animal movement rules being relaxed.
It's not going to go away, it's going to repeat. So we could almost think of it like an endemic disease in the sense that we need to build control of it into our individual farm plans.
And the lengths farmers will go to make sure apples are sun-kissed all over.
Rather than just relying on the sun coming down and hitting the apple from the sky, we've put reflective fabric on the ground so that the light is actually bouncing on the fabric and colouring up the apples underneath.
We'll be out in the orchard a little later. First, though, it's conference season, and not just for political parties. A group of farmers who look after 40,000 hectares of land along the North Norfolk coast came together last week to discuss the future of farming for the environment and food. The North Norfolk Coastal Group was set up to improve habitats on a large scale. This coastline has special protected environments and very productive farmland, so striking a balance between nature and food security was an important talking point at the conference. Jake Fines, Conservation Manager at Holcombe Hall, one of the largest estates in the country, told me with lack of certainty about future funding for conservation schemes like countryside stewardship, he is finding his job harder.
It's invitation only for higher tier woodland and those that have woodland management plans. It's open to higher tier CS agreements that are ending, but it's not open to those that were forced to roll over for up to 6 years that are providing multiple benefits. And I'm deeply frustrated. So I manage the largest private national nature reserve in England, and I have a scheme that is costing me money to manage. I want to deliver for nature. I want to deliver public goods. I'm running at a loss because I can't go to the private sector because the private sector wants uplift.
You can't uplift anymore, you're saying?
I'm delivering high-value nature. The private sector wants to see an uplift because they want to buy into that. I'm delivering everything that everyone expects of me, and I'm running at a loss. We've got to make some changes there.
Well, some people might say, well, why should you be paid for it at all? It's a huge estate, it makes a lot of money, it should be able to do that anyway.
Why should we expect other parts of a business to support nature parts of a business? So the estate already subsidises the nature reserve to significant amounts of money. But when you have something that is of a public good, that is of open public access, that has historically always benefited from the public purse and is delivering public goods, you expect the public purse to recognise that.
Are you going to start having to charge people to actually come onto the beach, into the wildlife area?
It's about striking a balance. So there is associated income from car parking to the nature reserve. So there is a support scheme within the estate, but actually the car parking also maintains a historic building, it maintains a parkland, it employs people, so it's multifunctional. I'm putting money in to deliver and protect nature for the public benefit so people can be rewarded and realise that the UK is not the most nature depleted country in the world, but actually we can start to improve it. And that's what we're trying to achieve. And I need support through that, not just from Holcombe, but also not just from car parks, but also from the public purse.
But there's a tension between environment and food. It's not just the uncertainty over funds to farmers for environmental benefits, but money for the old basic payment scheme is being phased out much more sharply than expected. Keynote speaker Lib Dem MP Alistair Carmichael, who chairs the EFRA Select Committee, said food as a public good must be back on the agenda.
But we seem to have lost sight of the fact that actually food production is a public good. And, it's going to take possibly the next 2 decades to get back to a proper policy, but we've got to start this conversation now. Otherwise, nothing is ever going to change. We're never going to eliminate imports. Obviously, there are always going to be things that we need to import, but we need to keep the critical mass and the core of domestic production going in this country. Otherwise, we are vulnerable. We are insecure.
Do you think that the recent reshuffle might provide an opportunity
I can see how Amy Reynolds coming in from the Treasury could bring fresh influence with her. I can see how Angela Eagle, with a lot of ministerial experience, would be able to plot a clever course around government between departments. But at the moment, there are some really pressing, time-sensitive challenges. You've got the stewardship schemes that are coming to an end at the end of this year, and we've got nothing for people to look towards in terms of the next iteration of SFI. And, if you're going to turn around to farmers and say to them, well, just trust the government to give you something good, you're going to get, at best, a pretty hollow laugh at that, because that relationship of trust, with everything that has happened, especially with the closure of the last round of SFI, the relationship of trust is gone. So that's what worries me about this. It's the here and now, and it's the very urgent, pressing matters that they are going to have to find a way of getting their mind around without any real delay.
The chair of the Commons Environment, Food and Rural Affairs Select Committee, Lib Dem MP Alistair Carmichael. Well, DEFRA told us in a statement that farming plays a central role in its mission to kickstart economic growth, with farmers acting as stewards for our nation's food security. DEFRA also said this government is making the largest investment in nature-friendly farming in history across the Parliament, and added, we're aware that there are some agreements ending in the months ahead, and we're considering how best to deliver for the environment, the public and farmers. Now, all week we're taking our pick of the harvest of top fruit. That's apples, pears, plums and damsons. The UK's apple picking season is well underway, with an estimated 10 million trees to harvest. Many growers reported a poorer crop last year as a cold, wet spring led to a lack of pollinators. But has wall-to-wall sunshine seen a better crop this year? Bob Hockenhull visited grower Jake Simpson, who has 50 acres of apples on his fruit farm in Herefordshire.
The apples that these guys are picking today, it's actually a Victorian variety called Egremont Russet, and it's got a rough yellowy skin and an amazing nutty flavour. It's very, very sweet apple normally, but obviously with all this extra sun, it's extra sweet. We've got a tractor with 4 trailers, each with an apple bin, which is a big square wooden box. That train is driving down the row, and then our guys are walking alongside the train, picking the fruit directly into the bins. They're trying to separate juice fruit, so the undersized, oversized and damaged fruit, into boxes which will then go off for apple juice.
Oversized apples will go to wholesale markets. Most will end up on supermarket shelves. So how has this year's hot weather affected the harvest here?
It's a super crop. We had a great spring, so pollination was very good. We're looking at a heavy crop. It's been a nice dry summer, so we've got lots of sugar in the apples. We've managed to keep up with the irrigation, and yeah, it's looking really good.
So I know some farming industries are pretty upset with their crops because of the heat and lack of rain, but that isn't the case with you then? It's
been a challenge. Obviously with broader arable crops it's very, very difficult to irrigate them. However, with our top fruit and the stone fruit that we grow, we've got irrigation in each field. We've got drip lines running underneath each of these trees, so we're able to very efficiently irrigate even in times of drought.
The pickers are a mixture of British, Bulgarian and Romanian people. Bogdan Vadina has been here for many years, working his way up to supervisor.
So we've got good sugar on the apple, and I think we are looking for about 5 to 10% more than last year, but definitely better quality than last year. Having a good summer, it was helping.
The Egremont Russets being picked today aren't the only variety grown here.
So we've moved to another field now where Jake is growing the variety called Pink Lady, which won't actually be picked until mid-October. And you've got this white fabric on the ground next to the apples, Jake. What's that all about?
So what we're trying to do with this variety is get as much colour into the apple as possible, or onto the apple as possible. And rather than just relying on the sun coming down and hitting the apple from the sky, we've put reflective fabric on the ground so that the light is actually bouncing on the fabric and colouring up the apples underneath, so that a higher percentage of the fruit on the tree is then in spec for Pink Lady.
And Pink Lady is a variety you've not actually been growing for as long as some of the other varieties, isn't it?
Correct, this is our newest variety. These have been in the ground for 3 years, so they're coming into full production now. It's a very, very popular branded apple in the UK, and we're one of a handful of growers that were fortunate enough to get the licence to grow it.
Herefordshire apple grower Jake Simpson. Vets are warning farmers not to become complacent about the risk of bluetongue as we head into autumn. The disease, which affects sheep and cattle, is spread by biting midges. How long they'll be around depends very much on the weather. Last week, 21 new cases of bluetongue were confirmed in England. Meanwhile, some restrictions on the movement of livestock from England to Scotland and Wales are now being eased. If you're a farmer, it's best to check how the changes affect you with the government's websites or with your vet. The Vice President of the British Veterinary Association's Scottish branch is Gareth Haitley. I asked him if temperatures had dropped low enough to stop the midges.
No, I can tell you, I live in Scotland and there's still plenty up here. So midges are still around. They'll still be active. They'll still be biting. The key thing that we're moving towards is the key temperature that stops the virus replicating in the midge. We're not there yet. That's what determines the what we call the vector low period, but we're very much not in that ballpark yet.
What sort of temperature are we talking about for that then?
It's around a steady temperature of around 12 degrees. That's the sort of critical one.
So is it worth farmers still investing in bluetongue vaccination now as we go into the autumn?
Absolutely, yes. If animals particularly cattle, potentially get infected during the autumn breeding period, there's a risk that they could then carry infected calves which can have congenital defects and be born in the spring. The vaccine is extremely effective and will prevent all of that.
Is this something then that farmers really have to think about in the longer term? They have to have this vaccination plan within their systems, within their routines, with their vets?
Yes, absolutely. Bluetongue is a notifiable disease, so we need to report it. But it's not going to go away. It's going to repeat. So we could almost think of it like an endemic disease in the sense that we need to build control of it into our individual farm plans. We've got the vaccine. Let's use it.
Is there a danger of farmers becoming complacent?
I think there's an ongoing risk of complacency. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. Firstly, the disease is slow starting in the year. It always behaves like that. Secondly, if disease occurs on a farm, because the disease can spread relatively slowly, the midge is very efficient at spreading disease from itself to an infected animal, but it's relatively inefficient the other way around, so it takes a long time for midges to get infected. That means it can take some time for disease to spread within a herd. So just because you've had bluetongue doesn't mean further animals won't get infected either then or subsequent. So it's important that we recognise that the disease, where it's present, it can recur. For all those reasons, I think it's really important that farmers have those conversations with their vets and they do consider vaccination.
Vice President of the British Veterinary Association's Scottish branch, Gareth Haitley. That's all from us. I'm Anna Hill. The producer was Sarah Swadling. Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.